Hello, everybody. Welcome, whatever time zone you're in, to the Workplace Navigation Podcast. Why did we create this? I've been managing projects and programs for over 20 years now, and I found that from time to time I came across the same problem over and over and over again. And when I couldn't solve it, I would go to a coworker or an associate. We'd put our heads together or the team, we'd figure it out. It occurred to me over time that the workplace has a workforce that is a genius. The employees collectively are a genius. They can figure out anything. And so I thought it'd be a great idea to bring in representatives from the workforce, everyday people to come in and talk about problems they encountered and the ingenious creative solutions that they came up with, which was mutually beneficial. So you'll find that we don't cite company names or people names because this is meant to be a generic rule of thumb conclusion that we come up to. But I just love the fact that our workforce has answers that maybe aren't in the textbooks and aren't in college and aren't in training. They're practical solutions to real life problems. So please enjoy. Please watch the podcast. If you like it, click the like button. If you'd like to be featured on the podcast, we'd love to bring you on board. Just email me at info@mike-sanders.com. I'll put the email address in the description and enjoy. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Workplace Navigation Podcast. For this episode, I'd like to share some thoughts on falling in love on the workplace. And the idea is that we tend to fall in love with things. We can fall in love with our company, we can fall in love with our teams, with our jobs, with our manager. But I want to pose a different way to look at falling in love. With the company, you have little control over things like reductions in force, changes in policy, reductions in benefits, reorganizations, increased monitoring, poor business performance, which results in tightening of stuff, little control over that, maybe some little foresight as well. So difficult to fall in love with something that you really don't have much control over. With regard to your team, you could have disgruntled members, reassignments of members, co-assignments of members, new members, change in members' priorities. The focus, the culture, the momentum of the team could be affected by that, and you might have little or no control over it. With regard to the job, you could have a change in responsibility. You could have an increased workload. You could have a change in stretch goals, meaning harder. You could have change in evaluation criteria for performance. You could have challenging dependencies. You could have vague scope at times. You could have new tools that you need to use. Little control over that. You just deal with it. With regard to your manager, you could have a change in management. You could have no manager for a while. You could have a manager that doesn't communicate very well. You could have conflicting goals. You could have a missing manager. You could have favoritism going on in the workplace. You could have micromanagement. You could have tasks with poor delegation, little control over that. What you do have control over, though, is your work because you're doing it. And what I want to talk to you about for this episode is what you can do about that control over your work. Rather than falling in love with your company, love your company, support your company, feel great about your company, support your team, feel great about your team, value your team, love your job, appreciate your job, support your job, respect your job, do all you can to be an expert in your job, but fall in love with your job. Your manager may change. Your manager may have stresses and motivations that are beyond what you can even imagine. You have little control over that. So difficult to fall in love with something, again, that you have little control over, but you can control your work. And I want to give you some tips on that today. First of all, align your work with what the organization actually rewards, not what it says. Every company has stated priorities, missions, values, strategy decks, real priorities. What leaders fund? What leaders promote? What leaders praise? What can you do about it? Watch who gets promoted and why. Track what gets executive attention, revenue, cost savings, risks, visibility. Ask what outcomes are considered wins at your company. If your work doesn't tie to these outcomes, it won't be valued, no matter how hard the work is or no matter how hard you work. Tie your work to business impact, not activity. Busy does not equal valuable. Shift your mindset from I delivered a project to I reduced costs by 12%, enabled $3 million in revenue, and mitigated risk. Clear, measurable wins. Quantify your outcomes whenever possible. Translate technical work into business language. Highlight before versus after. Executives reward impact, not effort. Work at the right altitude. A common trap is to stay tactical, short term. To advance, your work needs to move from task execution to problem solving and strategy influence. What to do? Ask, why are we doing this? Not just, what do I need to do? Volunteer for ambiguous cross-functional problems. Bring solutions, not just status updates. The higher the altitude, the more visible and promotable the work is. Visibility matters. Great work that no one sees is low value, and organizationally speaking. Share progress with the right stakeholders. Create concise executive summaries. Use storytelling. Problem goes to action, goes to result. You're not bragging, you're just ensuring alignment and awareness. Build relationships with decision makers. Advancement is not just performance, it's confidence from leadership. What you can do, understand your manager's goals, make them successful. Build trust with influencers across teams. Ask for feedback and regularly act on it. Promotions happen when leaders trust you at the next level, not just your current one. Focus on high leverage work. Not all work is equal. High value work typically impacts multiple teams or functions, solves recurring systemic issues, is tied to strategic initiatives. What you can avoid: being the go-to for low impact busy work, becoming indispensable in a non-promotable role. Ask yourself weekly, if I stopped doing this, would it even matter? Anticipate future needs. Be early, not reactive. Top performers don't wait for direction. They see what's coming. What you can do: stay close to strategy shifts, mergers and acquisitions, restructuring growth areas. Upskill in areas the organization is moving toward. Identify problems before they become urgent. Being early positions you as a leader, not a follower. Clarify what advancement looks like. Many people guess and guess wrong. What to do? Act directly. What would I need to do to demonstrate to move to the next level? Get specific competencies, not vague advice. Align your work to those expectations. If you don't define the target, you're not going to hit it. Discovers consistency and reliability. Flashy work gets attention, but consistent delivery builds reputations. What you can do is beat commitments. Commitments early if risks arise. Be known as someone who gets it done. Reliability earns trust, and trust earns advancement. Avoid the hard work trap. This is blunt, but it's very important. Organizations do not promote you because you work hard. They promote you because you create value they cannot ignore. A simply weekly self-checklist would be this: am I working on something tied to top business priorities? Can I clearly explain the impact of my work? Do the right people know what I'm doing? Is this work helping me operate at the next level up? If your answer is no to two or more of these, you're likely doing good work, but not valued work. My answer to the question, What do you fall in love with at work? You fall in love with your work. That's what you have control over. And if you implement these items that we've talked about today, you'll have much more control over it and much more opportunity for advancement. Good luck to you, my friends.